So, hi, I want to say
Hi.
hello. Welcome to So Mind Boggling Journeys.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here with Ekwa, Msangi, and Andrea Coleman, and they are here from All My Friends Are Married. It's going to be a new web series, a 5-part web series about a Christian woman who is dating in New York City. And so we have Andrea, who is our lead actress, and we have Ekwa, who is the director. So we're just going to go right in. And do you want to say a little something about the project?
Yeah. The writer, Mercedes Brazier Thurman, is an old friend of mine. We went to college together, and she approached me. Boy, it's been at least 2 years now. More just, she was interested in, she had been writing this thing sort of in her back closet for several years and wanted to figure out how to get it done. And I read it and just adored this character and could completely see could see her. I could actually see the character and I could see it coming to life, and I wanted to make it happen. And she had, I think, $2,000. I was like, okay, we can figure out how to sort of guerrilla style make a pilot episode and then use that to launch the rest of it. And so that's pretty much what happened. And it's been a really exciting experience. It's hard when something takes so long to come to fruition. You kind of forget where you came from, or something, like all the trials and tribulations, because it's been such an elongated process and so much has happened since then. And I also just want to say that when she came to me with a script and we were talking about excuse me, who the lead character would be, Andrea was the first person in my mind. Andrea and I were in a writing class together, and I have read her work and seen her kind of perform different scenes from her work, and I was like, you have to meet Andrea. Like, I know exactly who Lauren is, and we're going to shoot it. And, it's always interesting. It was the first time directing something that I had not written. So it's an interesting negotiation with a writer who's been living with these characters for a long time to now have a new person to come and be like, actually, that's not who you're thinking of. Let me show you who you're thinking of. But, everything worked out perfectly, and I think Andrea is like just a perfect fit for it.
Mm-hmm. And when you first read the script, what did you think? Did you immediately connect with the character Lauren, or did you have to do a lot of research and homework on it?
It was amazing when I first read it. I was like, did somebody... I didn't write it, but I felt like I wrote it. I felt like I knew this person. I was like... It made me feel excited because I don't think I'd written in a while. So I was like, oh, good. Somebody's doing exactly what I would do. The first thing I read, I feel like there was a reference to Jem and the Rockers or Jem and the Holograms, and I was like, oh my god, I had a Jem doll. Of course I watched the show, so I was like, I just felt like I felt very connected to the character, but I also felt just really connected and excited to the writer. I love that the writer was a black woman. I was like, she's a black woman, I'm a black woman. It just felt ridiculous, amazing. Mm-hmm. Felt very connected right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes. And so who do you think is going to be drawn to this series? Do you think it's going to be women who want to get married, or do you think it's also for your married friends?
I feel like any woman around anywhere from 20s to 40s, I feel like anybody who's ever dated or tried to date or wanted to date is going to be interested in this. And this character's intelligent, and what's amazing about her, I feel like she's like a lot of women, she's intelligent in the work and career arena and in most aspects of her life, but then when it comes to romance is challenged. And I think a lot of women feel that way.
Romantically challenged.
Yes, romantically challenged. And a very active fantasy life. She's very creative, which I feel very connected to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think she actually really wants to get married, or do you think that because society tells her she should get married and because all her friends are married, that she now feels the pressure to get married? Do you think she really wants to?
I think she wants connection.
She wants connection.
And I think maybe she feels the way to get that is through marriage. Because she has a lot of people in this series, like her female friends and her male friends, and they're almost, in a way, kind of being taken away from her in their romantic relationship. So maybe she's feeling like, I want to connect with somebody who's not going to go away and get into another relationship. But I think she has a very strong desire for connection, which I feel very connected to. That resonates for me, and I think most people also. Yeah. And, like, there's a fantasy around, like, falling in love that, like, everybody, I think, in, like, Western society feels very connected to. So there's this idea that all your problems will be solved once you get married. It's not true. I don't think. I'm not married, no, but I don't feel like that happens.
It's not true.
No, Ekwa? Is that true?
No. Boys and girls, it is not true. I'm here to tell you that. I mean, a marriage is like any other relationship in the sense that there's, you know, good times, bad times, trials, tribulations, all that kind of stuff. The only difference is that a marriage, unlike a friendship, usually has sex involved and like a different level of intimacy that can also be kind of complicated, and has a lot of demand on it too. You know, like having babies, for example, or, you know, just sort of what's supposed to happen, what a married couple is supposed to look like. You're supposed to have your own apartment, for example. You're supposed to live in a certain neighborhood, or when you have a child, live in a certain neighborhood because the child needs a backyard, or whatever, you know, like all of those kinds of things start piling up, where when you're single or you're just dating, I think people can be a little bit more flexible with what that should look like, or whatever, what the expectations are around that. The other thing I was going to say regarding who I think would watch this show, you know, I would agree with what Andrea said in terms of those age groups, but surprisingly enough, I just had I did a guest lecture at a private girls boarding school in Ohio earlier this week, and I showed the first 2 episodes to a room of juniors and seniors who felt that they could completely connect to the white young women, juniors and seniors for the most part, white young women, and it was quite the hit. So
really,
that said a lot to me.
What part about it? Like just dating, I think they just looking for.
Yeah, someone. You know, they were just so excited about like the idea of. I mean, it's been a while since I've been 14 or whatever, but I think they could relate to, well, first of all, the humor for sure, but just like trying to find your mate and having all these complicated friends and things like that. Yeah, it was really, they were screaming. It was really fun.
And probably also because with Lauren's character, she's so funny and so quirky, and I feel like she makes everyone feel like, oh, that's how I feel, because you kind of feel like you're alone. You feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm in my own little world and all this stuff is going on around me, and oh, their lives are so great and everything's coming together for them, and I'm just trying to figure it out. And I feel like people, you know, especially myself, can totally relate to that. You know, the idea of like feeling like a, you know, fish out of water, so to speak. But that's really interesting, and I wouldn't think that demographic would relate to the series, but
I sent the series to their teacher like a few days before, because it occurred to me that I had never really, I don't have that many teenagers in my life, so I was like, I don't know if they can connect. Is this okay to show them? Is it too much? And I wanted to show them the episode 2, which takes place in a gynecologist's office, and I was like, I'm not really sure what their rules are around talking about gynecology to teenagers. I don't know. And they just thought it was great. They thought it was great, and it was an education for the male teachers who were there too, as to what that might look like in a gynecology office, at least through the eyes of Lauren.
Right. Okay, so you touched on earlier about how a lot of times there's all these expectations that come if come with marriage, right? And Haria Muhammad, who is the producer of All My Friends Are Married, she's kind of started a conversation around this idea of expectation shedding and what that means to different people. Like, how do you go about that? What expectations are out there, and what do you connect with, and what do you kind of wish wasn't there, and how can we all actively shed it in our own lives?
Expectations.
Yeah, right? Expectations. Do you think that's very hard? I mean, it's easier said than done, right? To just say that. But when you're living your life day to day and you have your family and friends and coworkers and colleagues and whoever else saying things to you, I mean, how do you deal with that on, a daily basis?
I mean, I do think it's hard. I suppose it depends on the expectation, but a lot of these kinds, especially to do with like marriage and partnerships, and marriage in particular is a very family-centric activity. It's not really the kind of thing, at least traditionally, it's not the kind of thing that you do on your own in the back, the way you, I don't know, get your hair done if you decided to cut it or something like that. And even that, people have a lot of feelings around that, But marriage it involves not only the partner, but then like their family, your family. You need your family to know and his family to know, and all of that kind of stuff. And so it involves a lot of people, and whether you like it or not, everybody has their feelings about it, and they will tell you. and and I guess as human beings, there's a way that we all kind of live vicariously through everybody else. So all the things that I wasn't able to accomplish in my life, I want my child to, I want to see my daughter have the wedding that I didn't have, or marry the man that I didn't marry, or live the, whatever it is. Excuse me. And it's hard I think it's hard not to do that. Like, you actually do actively have to make a concerted effort to just like, those are my feelings. I shall put that in the back and let so-and-so live their life the way that they need to live it, as long as they're not like putting their life in jeopardy or something. So yeah, it's hard because there is the feeling of, at least from my personal experience, there is the feeling that if I don't participate in a certain way, I might have to choose between having my family or not. Like being able to be a part of that society, that group, that community, or not. And that's a scary thought. Or can be.
Yeah. What about you, Andrea?
Can you ask me the question
Sure,
again?
yeah.
I was so listening to ekwa. I'm like, yeah.
I know. I know, it is nice to just listen to ekwa. I can listen to her all day long.
Don't make me sad.
But we were talking about the idea of expectation shedding, and it's easier said than done to just say, oh, I don't care what people think, I'm going to live my life the way I'm going to live it, I don't care how people judge me. But I do think that there are certain steps and conversations you have to have with yourself to actually be able to not be so impacted by other people's opinions of how you should live your life. So I was asking you because you being I think it's okay in a relationship. Like, do people then say, oh, now that you're in this relationship, okay, now what's next? And then what, it's like that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. People absolutely say that. And it's funny, it's like, it's less my family, although they do, but I don't have as much contact with them because my family lives far away. But, like, even in court, like, there are, like, lawyers who, like, I haven't seen you in a while, so what's going on? Like, are you still in that relationship? Like, what's happening? Are you getting married? Are you going to have kids? And it's like, you've never even met my man, but you asking all these questions. And it can be challenging. I feel like the opportunity is to kind of just be real with like what comes up when somebody asks the question. Because like for me, it'll be like, whoa, like all this like feelings will come up around it. And so it's like, wow, like that's interesting. Like this person's asking me this question and I'm feeling this kind of way about it. And then like dropping into like the truth of what my experience is, because I think for some people like the definition of a successful relationship or successful partnership means that you're married, means that you have kids, means that you live together, means that whatever it means, and that may not be your path, and that may not be what it looks like for you, but it can be uncomfortable for sure. I mean, the way that it feels for me to like live my life is not necessarily the way it feels for everybody else. And I definitely notice that, like, you know, I've had the experience of different people in my family kind of questioning me about different ways that I'm like living my life in all sorts of ways. Like even just moving to New York, people are like, what are you doing? Like, you're moving to New York? Those people are crazy. And it's like, yeah, they are crazy. New Yorkers are crazy, but not all of them. Not all of them all the time. Just like people in Virginia can be crazy. But I feel like it's about like dropping in intuitively to like what feels right for you. I mean, and it's interesting, it's a Christian series, so like for me it's kind of like, okay, well, what does it feel like God wants me to do right now, and am I willing to do what it feels like God wants me to do right now, even if it's not popular, even if it makes everybody in the room really uncomfortable, even if it makes me really uncomfortable, because a lot of the times the communication I get from God around stuff to do is like, oh my gosh, it's so uncomfortable, everyone's gonna look at me. And it's like, yeah, everybody is going to look at you. Are you willing to be looked at? And sometimes I say yes, and then sometimes I feel like no. But I try to say yes more than no.
And I think it also has to do, it's not just family, too. I mean, excuse me, as a woman, I mean, and as a man, too, I guess differently. I mean, just thinking about, like, a job. I know I haven't really worked in the corporate world that much, but even as a filmmaker, being a female filmmaker who's single versus a female filmmaker who's married, where the expectation is like, well, if you're married, clearly you're about to have kids any minute now. So it's like, well, I've had people, I remember working on shoots when I was married, and people would apologize to my husband for keeping me on the set late. Like, oh, poor guy, you know, we should call him. And I'm like, why are you apologizing to him? He's chilling at home. I'm the one busting my ass on set. I'm sorry, why is that? You know, because like, oh, we don't want to keep you apart, or poor guy, he's missing you, or whatever it is. But then if I wasn't in a relationship, then oh, well, we can just work you 20 hours a day and that's fine, right? Because it's not like you have anything better to do with your life.
Right.
What? And I've seen that also as far as, I know like in Kenya, for example, when people send in their write up their CV or their resume, they write on their marital status. And because people, I guess, will decide if they want to give you the job or not, depending on if you're married, for both men and women, because if you have kids at home, then we can't, like, for example, you might not be able to travel much, or you're going to make it a big deal if you have to travel all the time, or we can't keep you out late because you have to go home and breastfeed or something, you know, like things of that nature. And if you're in being in a relationship, like, you don't even have to have the kids, but being in a relationship alone is like, well, kids are about to come any minute now, so we might not be able to fully get the best out of this investment, essentially, which is, I mean, I guess that's more political, actually, than it is an expectation. That's actually pretty terrible.
Yeah, and that's illegal. They're not able to do that. I hear, right. I remember when I worked my corporate job, I swear, everybody after they had a baby, the women after they had a baby, they were able to jet out of there at 5 o'clock, like 4:59, and it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, she's got to go. And I always felt like, oh my gosh, you know, what about women who aren't able to have children or don't want to have children? So it's okay for them to you know, work and burn the midnight oil. It's just so kind of crazy, but yes, okay, but. All My Friends Are Married. The Instagram page is up on All My Friends Are Married. Oh, AMFAM TV. And that's also on Twitter. And then on Facebook, you can just type in All My Friends Are Married. And this whole series is really brought to you by the Black TV and Film Collective, which is going to be rolling out a bunch of other series later on this summer. Keloid, I think, is up next. And that's written and directed by Haria Muhammad. And hopefully we'll have a chance to chat with her about All My Friends Are Married. Is there anything else that you want to say about All My Friends Are Married?
I just think it's a really, aside from just being a fun, light, funny, creative, fabulous series, I also just want to say that it's, you know, it's a project that was put together by a group of mostly Black artists who, which is now the Black TV and Film Collective. That I think we kind of started off on All My Friends Are Married. It's a thing that happens in New York where there's a number of us who are independent artists, and we're hustling and we're doing our thing, and the only way for us to move forward is if we, sort of get together and help each other to move forward together. And that has turned into the Black TV and Film Collective now, which is a fabulous organization. We're about 1,000 members strong, I believe, of artists in a number of capacities, not just directors, producers, writers, actors, but, wardrobe people and grips and electricians and, everybody, kind of bringing our talent, and PR and journalists and just everyone, bringing our talents together to push our own work forward and to kind of get ourselves on a platform. It's you can spend a lot of time in the city working for a lot of people and doing things that you may or may not really like or may not be particularly useful to you. But this has been a really nice family. And I'm just really proud of the work that we've been able to do together and that we're able to actually show something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you're actually in post-production. Before we get out of here, we're going to just talk about some other projects that you all are working on. You are, you just are wrapped up filming on your short film.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's my third professional short film. It's called Farewell Meu Amor. At least that's what it's called right now. And it's a short film that I shot with two actors. Lead actor is Sangoja. He was the Tony-nominated actor who played Fela on the Broadway show. Really brilliant guy. And Nana Mensah, she's a Ghanaian-American actress who is on the very popular web series An African City. And they did a fantastic job on this short. I'm really excited to get it out there. It's premiering this July at the Zanzibar International Film Festival. So
wow,
that's what I'm getting ready for.
So awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yay.
And then, so Andrea is not only a really talented actress, but she is a writer. You actually write a lot. You've written a lot.
I have.
Your short film BFF was screened at a bunch of film festivals, and you've written like 12 different shorts. So, and you've taken a break from that, and then you got back into acting. And so now that All My Friends Are Married, the season 1 is in the can. Season 2, to be determined. What are you going to be focusing on now? Do you want to go back to producing maybe one of your other shorts?
I had not thought about it, and then Ekwa said something about it a couple of days ago. So, I mean, it made me. It does make me feel excited to revisit some of the shorts and features that I've written and see if I want to tinker with them a little bit and maybe get them take the dust off the pages and see what will happen with them. I love writing a lot. I get ideas a lot, and so I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Andrea has a very unique voice. And she's an amazing comedian. Just, I mean, without even trying too hard, which is the best sort of comedy. So I very much hope that you will. And now that this is on record and the whole world has heard it, and people are going to be asking you questions.
Expecting. How are you going to shed that expectation?
Yeah.
I know. Or maybe I will embrace it.
You put it out in the universe. It's official.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So if you decide to, you'll have to come back and talk to us about your next project, both of you.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, I want to thank you so much for chatting with me about All My Friends Are Married. Very excited to see the full series.
Me too.
Yes. Yes. It'll be your first time seeing it.
Yeah. I've only seen the first 2 episodes.